Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Introduction to Psychology Part 1 PSY 312 by Dear Knowledge. In this video we will be discussing neurons, which will include neurotransmitters and their effect. In our previous video we have discussed about the structure of neurons and function of neurons and characteristics of neurons, and we also discussed the synapse, and in which we discussed the presynapse, synaptic neuron and postsynaptic neuron in great detail. And in this video we will be discussing neurotransmitters and their effects, in which we will be discussing some important neurotransmitters which are acetylcholine, you can say acetylcholine, it's the pronunciation, and then we will discuss dopamine, and we will discuss serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, which is GABA, which is the abbreviation, and then we will discuss endorphins, which is the brain's natural high, and in the end we will be discussing summary of some important neurotransmitters. So let's start with the neurotransmitters and their effects. I have included some definitions of the neurotransmitters, as I always include in my every video. These are the definitions which were easy to understand, so I included them in my video. The first definition is that neurotransmitters are the chemicals manufactured by a neuron. And the second definition is neurotransmitters are the chemicals that allow neurons to send signals across the synapse to another neuron. You can say that as the neurotransmitters flows into the synapse, some of the molecules reaches some of the molecules reach the receiving postsynaptic neuron, and the cell membrane of postsynaptic neuron contains receptors, and receptors are configured so that only specific neurotransmitters can fit into them. We have discussed these in great detail, but in this video we will be discussing about the neurotransmitters and their effects. So neurotransmitters play a crucial role in the communication between neurons, and the activation of most neurons is determined by the messages delivered by the neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters have a profound effect on our physical and psychological functioning. Our ability to perceive, feel, think, move, act, and react depends on the delicate balance of neurotransmitters in the nervous system. So too much or too little of a given neurotransmitter can have a devastating effects. Yet neurotransmitters are present only in a minuscule amount in the human body. If you imagine trying to detect a pinch of salt dissolved in an Olympic-sized swimming pool, you will have some idea of an infinitesimal amount of neurotransmitters present in the brain tissue. So researchers have linked abnormal levels of specific neurotransmitters to various physical and behavioral problems. And nevertheless, it is important to remember that any connection between a particular neurotransmitter and a particular effect is not a simple one-to-one relationship. Many behaviors are the result of the complex interaction of different neurotransmitters. Further, neurotransmitters sometimes have different effect in different areas of the brain. So despite this complexity, some generalizations about the action of a particular neurotransmitter can be made. So in this video, we will look at the behavioral effects of some of the most important neurotransmitters, including acetylcholine, serotonin, dopamine, GABA, which is the abbreviation, and we will discuss the endorphin. I've included some pictures which include some neurotransmitters. You can see these are the neurotransmitters, and in here you can see the functions of each neurotransmitter, which we'll be discussing in great detail. Now let's come to the acetylcholine. The definition is that neurotransmitter that cause muscle contraction and is involved in memory function. You can say that acetylcholine is the first neurotransmitter discovered, is found in all motor neurons. And its function is that it stimulates muscles to contract, including the heart and stomach muscles, whether it is as simple as the flick of an eyelash or as complex as a backflip. All movement involves acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is also found in many neurons in the brain, and it is important in memory, learning, and general intellectual functioning. People with Alzheimer's disease, which is characterized by progressive loss of memory and deterioration of intellectual functioning, have a severe depletion of several neurotransmitters in the brain, and most notably acetylcholine. And now let's come to the next neurotransmitter, which is the dopamine. The definition includes neurotransmitters involved in the regulation of bodily movement, thought processes, and rewarding sensation. So the neurotransmitter dopamine is involved in movement, attention, learning, and pleasurable or rewarding sensation. Evidence suggests that the addictiveness of some drugs, including cocaine and nicotine, is related to their dopamine increasing properties. And the degeneration of the neurons that produces dopamine in one brain area causes Parkinson's disease, which is characterized by rigidity, muscle tumors, poor balance, and difficulty in initiating movement. Symptoms can be alleviated by a drug called L-Dopa, which converts to dopamine in the brain. But excessive brain levels of dopamine are sometimes involved in hallucination and perceptual distortions and characterize the severe mental disorder called schizophrenia. And antipsychotic drugs that relieve the schizophrenic symptoms work by blocking the dopamine receptors and reducing dopamine activity in the brain. But unfortunately, these antipsychotic drugs can also produce undesirable side effects because the drugs reduces dopamine in several different areas of the brain. Long-term use sometimes produces symptoms that are very similar to those of Parkinson's disease, and so these were the associated disorders of the dopamine. Now let's come to the serotonin. I have included some definitions. It is a neurotransmitter involved in sleep and emotion. So the neurotransmitters serotonin and norepinephrine are found in many different areas. Serotonin is involved in sleep, mood, and emotional states, including depression. Antidepressant drugs such as Prozac increases the availability of serotonin in certain brain areas. The associated disorders would include depression, schizophrenia, and mania. So the major function of serotonin is that it is involved in sleep, mood, and emotional state. Now let's come to the norepinephrine. The definition includes that neurotransmitter involved in learning and memory. It also a hormone manufactured by adrenal gland. The location is that it is found in brain areas. So as we have discussed that serotonin and norepinephrine are found in many different areas of brain, but norepinephrine is implicated in the activation of neurons throughout the brain and helps the body gear up in the face of danger or threat. Norepinephrine also seems to be a key player in learning and memory retrieval. Like serotonin and dopamine, norepinephrine dysfunction is implicated in some mental disorders, especially depression. So you can say that function is that it is a key player in learning and memory retriever. It also communicates with the synaptic nervous system, and it is involved in producing state of high arousal. And the associated disorders are anxiety disorder, depression, and other stress related conditions. Mania is associated with too much norepinephrine. Now let's come to the GABA, or you can say GABA. It is the abbreviation of gamma aminobutyric acid. And the definition includes neurotransmitter that usually communicates an inhibitory message. The location is primarily in the brain. GABA is an abbreviation of, as we have discussed, gamma aminobutyric acid, a neurotransmitter found primarily in the brain. GABA usually communicates an inhibitory message to other neurons, helping to balance and offset excitatory messages. Alcohol makes people feel relaxed and less inhibited, partly by increasing GABA activity, which reduces brain activity. Anti-anxiety medications such as Valium and Xanax also work by increasing GABA activity, which inhibits action potential and slows brain activity. Interestingly, GABA seems to play a dual role in the brain, and that regulates daily sleep and wake cycles. During the day, GABA communicates an excitatory message to other neurons in the brain area, and at night, GABA communicates an inhibitory message to the same neurons. So now let's come to the endorphins. The definition is neurotransmitters that regulate pain receptors. It is a term derived from the phrase endogenous morphine. The term endogenous means produced internally in the body, and the reason why is it called it is derived from this phrase is that there is a great history behind endorphins. Actually, in 1973, a researcher, Candace Pert and Solomon Snyder of Johns Hopkins. So they both made the startling discovery that the brain contains receptor sites that are specific for a group of pain-killing drugs called opiates. Okay, the spellings of Candace Pert is it's Candace, Candace, Candace Pert, P-E-R-T, Candace Pert, and Solomon Snyder, S-O-L-O-M-O-N, and then there's a space, and then S-N-Y-D-E-R, Solomon Snyder. So Candace Pert and Solomon Snyder of Johns Hopkins University made the startling discovery that the brain contains receptor sites that are specific for the group of pain-killing drugs called opiates. Opiates include morphine, heroin, and codeine, C-O-D-E-I-N-E, codeine, and all derived from the opium poppy. Opium poppy is basically a plant. In addition to alleviating pain, opiates often produce a state of euphoria. And why would the brain have a neurotransmitter receptor sites for specific drug like morphine? So Pert and Snyder and other researchers concluded that the brain must manufacture its own painkillers, morphine-like chemicals that act as neurotransmitters. And within a few years, researchers identified a number of such chemicals manufactured by the brain, and collectively they are called endorphins, which is a term derived from the phrase endogenous morphine. Endogenous morphine, which is the word endogenous is a term derived from a phrase endogenous morphines. The endogenous means produced internally in the body. The indigenous itself means produced internally in the body. So although chemically similar to morphines, endorphins are 100 times more potent, and today endorphins are known to reduce the perception of pain. Following the discovery of endorphins in the mid 1970s, there was a flood of research investigating their effects. And to determine whether endorphins played a role in a particular process, researchers administered a drug called naloxone, which blocks the receptor sites for endorphins. And if endorphins were involved in a particular phenomena, administering naloxone would diminish their effect. And naloxone is basically a drug. And researchers also found that endorphins are implicated in the pain reducing effects of acupuncture, which is an ancient Chinese medical technique that involves inserting needles at various locations in the body, giving naloxone blocks the pain-relieving effects of the acupuncture. And researchers also have found that endorphins sometimes play a role in placebo effect, in which patients experience a significant reduction in pain, even though they have been a fake painkiller. And placebo effects are blocked when patients are first given naloxone. Endorphins are also associated with a positive mood. For example, so-called a runner's high associated with aerobic exercise has been attributed to endorphins. And when naloxone is given prior to such activities, the positive moods are blocked. Let's just discuss the summary of important neurotransmitters. I have included the summary of some important neurotransmitters, which you can see here. Here you can see the neurotransmitter, and the function of acetylcholine is that it enables muscle actions, learning, and memory. And here you can see the associated disorders, or you can say malfunctions, which include Alzheimer's disease and other SEH producing neurons deterioration. And you can see dopamine, which influences movement, learning, attention, and emotion. But the malfunction includes excess dopamine receptors activities is linked to schizophrenia, and starved of dopamine, the brain produces tremors and diseased mobility of Parkinson's disease. Here you can see the serotonin, which affects mood, hunger, sleep, and arousal. But the malfunction would include undersupply linked to depression. Prozac and some other antidepressant drugs raise serotonin level. And then you can see norepinephrine, which helps control alertness and arousal, and undersupply can depress mood. And then at the end you can see the GABA, which is a major inhibitory neurotransmitters, and undersupply linked to seizures, tumors, and insomnia. And the last one is the glutamate, which is a major excitatory neurotransmitters involved in memory. And its malfunctions would include oversupply, which can oversupply of glutamate can overstimulate brain, producing migraine or seizure, which is why some people avoid MSG, monosodium glutamate in food. But in this video we have discussed some important neurotransmitters, which are ACH, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, GABA, and endorphins. So this was the end of the video. If you have liked the video, you can click on the like button. If your concept is clear, you can click on the like button. And if not, you can ask us in the comment section which topic was confusing and you didn't get the point. We will be there to help you out. For the notification of the upcoming videos, you can subscribe to our channel, because we usually upload course-based video on every Saturday and Sunday. And from Monday to Friday we upload request-based videos. You can share the link of this video or this channel with your friends and family, because sharing is caring. And until then, Allah Hafiz.